I started out in Teesside, but where I went next is classified. I've trained on kit that doesn't officially exist, completed missions that never happened, and been places you won't find on a map. Because I went where I didn't go, spent days doing what I didn't do, and nights with people I was never with. I've come a long way for someone who's never officially been anywhere. I was born in Teesside, but that's about as much as I can tell you.
Welcome back to Tech. That was a cool kind of trailer there. So that was a trailer Eric played that came out. He likes for the Royal Navy. But welcome back to Tech Ops. I'm Greg. I'm with Eric.
Howdy, howdy.
And today we have on Command Master Chief Submarine Squadron-16 Joe Riley. But before we get into that, let's go over our sponsor, the Commando Store. They are an online military surplus store. They have a whole bunch of cool stuff. It's always fun just to go through their website. They always have different things going on. Looks like they brought back some of the rations and MREs, right?
Yeah, definitely. All you got to do is just add 16 ounces of water to these. You don't even have to add heat.
I have water.
I have water too. Yeah, so I think we could survive. So you just got to give up one of your smoke grenades and or magazines to survive for an extra day. But it's cool though. You got to do what you got to do, right? And then they're still selling the same optics and stuff. I was actually listening to them. They have a Twitter feed, and they were saying that they had a sale, and they did a month and a half worth of sales in 6 days, so they're a little bit behind. So that's probably why you haven't seen too much of a change on their website. They're trying to deal with a lot of the orders and stuff. And if you have an order, I'm sure, it may be a little bit late. You got to just kind of, give them a chance. They're going to catch up for sure.
Yeah, I placed an order recently too. But anyway, yep, Commando Store, Commando with a K. Store.com, and you get 5% off with our coupon code TACOPS. It's no uppercase, no space between that either, all lowercase, and you get 5% off your first order.
Definitely.
All right, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Do you want to maybe start out going into your background, first joining the Navy, and go from there?
Yeah, you want me to go ahead and do that, or you?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, all right, well. See, I joined the Navy on September 16th, 1997. So quite a while ago. I like to always say I joined in the 1900s for all the young kids coming in now.
All right.
But been in, so that puts me almost 23 years this September. I joined literally out of the chance of just, I felt the urge that I needed to go do something different with my life, and I was actually made the walk-on team for Riverside Community College, and I was registered going to school. Instead of going to school one day, I stopped at the recruiting office. And I said, "How fast can you get me out of here?" He said, 2 weeks. We did everything and sat down, and they were going through the job listings. Bosun's mate, CS, bosun's mate came up again. I was like, "Man, I don't want to be no bosun's mate." He goes, "Well, we can do this Seaman." It was called the Seaman Subfarer Program, which was strikers for submarine force. So I joined the submarine force as an undesignated seaman. Went through boot camp, sub school up in Groton, and then I came down to Kings Bay, where I'm at now, to my first sub, the USS Tennessee, and I struck torpedoman, made TM3, and then after that, 2 years here on the Tennessee Blue. Then I went out to Pearl on the Olympia. Was on the USS Olympia for about 4.5 years. Made second, made first while I was there. Went to dive school in Pearl Harbor while I was there. Did 2 deployments on her, a Westpac and a CENTCOM. And then after that, I decided, I wanted to go help the fleet out, and I became an RDC. And I pushed boots for about 3 years. It's a full 3-year tour you got to do when you go there. I trained on 12 division, finished my chief of the boat qualifications, and After that, I went to the USS West Virginia here in Kings Bay for my first Chief of the Boat tour. And I liked it so much, and I realized that after I got done doing a Chief of the Boat tour, really what else is out there. Talked to the wife and said, I'd like to go to a GN, and supposed you have to have already done a Cobb tour before you go do a GN Cobb tour. So I had an opening and an offer to go to the USS Florida. So I got a chance to do another Cobb tour right after the West Virginia. So I did back-to-back sea tours there. I just got relieved in May, and I just checked in July and relieved as the Squadron-16 CMC. That's where I'm at now.
And so when I met you when you joined us on the Hampton. So we did a change of home port. So we came from Norfolk to San Diego for, if I remember right, the Navy called it the 60-40 split, where they were trying to put 60% of the naval assets on the West Coast side because of everything that's happening on China, the West side, right? North Korea, everything else, right? So I actually got lucky. Thank God I'll tell you a funny story too. So for the deployment, it ended up being a 7-month deployment where they left from Norfolk, they went through the Panama Canal, did a Westpac, and then came back and changed home port to San Diego. It was amazing when they were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you don't have to live in Norfolk anymore. We're gonna move to San Diego." We were like, I mean, I've never seen a bunch of guys sitting there with the captain, and the captain says something, and they're just like screaming, like, "Yes, we're finally out of here!" I hated Norfolk, man. I hated Norfolk so much, and so I got lucky. Well, I kind of got lucky. So I got lucky, and they augmented me for the first half of the deployment, right? So first half, I got 3 months off of the deployment, and they kept me back to go to refrigeration school. I don't even know why they did it. I think they just needed the space, and they were like, "We just don't need you here, whatever, stay back." I go to refrigeration school, and we have this master chief that runs the school, and he is, I don't know what the good word is. I don't want to call him a Nazi, obviously, because he is like a master chief, and I want to respect him, but he was like a ridiculous person. And he at one point was stopping people before they left the building, because he had the office right next to the front door. He would stop people and say, "I don't believe that you have those ribbons. I want you to go get your service record. I want to bring it back to me, and I want you to verify that you have those service ribbons." And I was like, holy cow, you got to be kidding me with this guy. And so in their school, they're like, "You need to just do whatever. You could do whatever you want here. Just stay away from him. Don't mess with this master chief, right? He will destroy your life." So we go across the street, very first day of refrigeration school. We go across the street to the bowling alley in Norfolk, and there's a smoke pit inside, and I was smoking cigarettes at that time. And I took my hat off because I'm inside. I'm inside this smoke pit that's inside. It's in like a glass case that you could like smoke in, and they would like vacuum the air out inside the bowling alley. It was pretty cool for 2003, I guess. But anyways, so we're in there, and I have my hat next to me, and I always forget my hat. So I put my hat on real quick while I lit my cigarette, because I'll have my hand on it the whole time while I'm sitting there, so I don't forget it, because if I forget my hat, I feel stupid, right? And I can't walk around outside without it. So I put it on my head, and as soon as I put it on my head, that Master Chief pokes his head in to that smoke pit, and he's like, "You need to get that hat off your fucking head right now." And I was like, oh my God, like seriously? Okay. Sorry, Master Chief, I take care of it. So took it off, finished our day, we finished our lunch, and I'm walking back across the street, and I'm telling the guy that I was with, who was in the bathroom at the time, what happened. And I'm like, "This asshole Master Chief was like yelling at me and said, 'Fuck you.'" I couldn't believe it. It was so unprofessional. I couldn't believe it. And as I'm saying this to him, this Master Chief is standing right behind us and hears me call him an asshole. So he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm an asshole. I'll teach you what an asshole is." And before I even got back into the classroom, the instructor was like, we have to kick you out of the program. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Because I called him an asshole. Like, "Sorry, man. You got to go." So I sat around for 2.5 months inspecting rooms instead of serving my country. rightfully, because I called a guy an asshole, but it is what it is, anyways. But so anyway, so back to where I was going. I had to go on a little rant there, but to my point, there's good Master Chiefs and bad Master Chiefs, and I believe that you were like one of the really good leaders that we had. And so anyway, so you joined us right after we got back to San Diego, and we were in bad times, man. I mean, we had a lot of people that didn't make it, and we had a lot of rotations that rotated people off. And when we pulled in, it was just, I think it was just, Chief Riley and just me and two other guys that were E3s, E4s, just struggling, barely making it. And then you came in and kind of saved us because you actually knew what you were doing. And we didn't, because I was an A-ganger who cross-rated over to torpedoman, so I knew how to maintain the equipment, but I didn't know shit about torpedoes and tomahawks and stuff. So, but that's kind of our backstory and how I met you, and how you really stepped in and helped us out a lot. It was a pretty crazy time.
It was a crazy time there at the beginning, but one thing always testament to everybody coming together and what we did on the Hampton. We went from being at the bottom of the barrel in 07 to when I transferred, we got 2 battle E's in a row to being the go-to ship. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, the Hamptons. It's one of the things I always said about fast attacks is if you never hear the name and you don't know that name, that's probably because they're out there doing the really cool shit. You know what I mean? You hear about the Dallas and all that stuff because it got famous, but it's like the Hampton and all these no names that you don't ever hear about anymore that are out there sneaking around doing the real cool shit. Because when I was on the Hampton, we got the good stuff. You know what I mean? Like we had some really fun toys. And
you guys don't paint the side of all your kills on the side of the submarine or anything.
Well, there's no more kill. There's no kills, right? The last submarine kill was
World War II, right?
No, it was the Falklands.
Oh.
Right, with the HMS Conqueror.
But an actual submarine versus another submarine hasn't been since World War II, I don't...
That was, World War II. Yeah, well, it depends, because there was a lot of... Yes, I think so.
Unless you call it collision or something.
And there was only one submarine underwater battle where both subs were underwater.
World War II, about.
Right.
Is that difficult? I guess, from you'd be a good person to answer this question. Is it difficult because all that stuff is all based on World War II, right? I mean, you can try to come up with different scenarios and plan for different things, but...
So we do, for that, right, we do a lot of training and simulations. Mm-hmm. So to say it's difficult, it is difficult. And, the environment plays into it. The technology is the huge part that plays into making things a lot more challenging for us. Submarines they're getting quieter. Their technology is rapidly increasing on all fronts. That's what the Virginia class submarine is probably the submarine. She's the creme de la creme in my book.
Right.
Quiet, very tactically sound. You got everything in control, so the CO has the full picture. Whereas the 688s and all the GNs right now, nothing's in the same room. Everything's in the same room, so they can see it all. They know exactly what they're seeing. They're getting the real information, the real-time data to make those calls. So is it difficult? Yeah. Is it going to be challenging if we ever have to go to that open water war? It will. But, my money is on the one thing that I've seen out throughout, and that's made me stay in the 22 years that I've been doing this, is the operators, man. There's no more pleasure than watching that young sailor that's straight out of high school, operating that equipment, giving it to those young officers, making the calls and saying, this is what we're going to do. And, they kill it every time we go out there.
Right.
So my money's on, if you were to say, hey, who would you put your money on out there? Who's the top dog in the world? Granted, we don't have, we're kind of trying to get up to pace with China when it comes to arms raisings and the technology piece. But you can have all the greatest technology in the world. I'd rather have the best trained operator in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that's always...
we still have, that's going to
Yeah, that has a huge impact on that stuff.
Right, and that's always been our selling point of why we've always been better is the training, right?
Yeah.
You know, China's got all this cool technology, but they're so young, and there's still a lot of corruption they haven't worked out yet.
Yeah,
they got a
the
lot of
bureaucracy
bugs
and
to
all the
work
issues.
out. A lot of their technology is just straight stolen, so they still got to work bugs out, even though it's, stolen. They're not just completely replicating everything.
And I have a question real quick. You mentioned how the Virginia has everything in one room, right? We talked to, was it Jive Turkey, I think, at Sonar Tech.
Mm-hmm.
And, the sonar room used to be its own room, own separate thing. And I've heard a few different things. Some people say that was better because the sonar men can then focus, not have as many distractions. Have you noticed anything like that? Do you have any opinion on that?
Well, I've done short rides with them underway when I was at Squadron-16, on the Minnesota, doing all their certifications and stuff for the torpedo room. But, if I was I'm trying always, as a cop, I try and put myself in, hey, what does the old man need, right? What's my CO need, right? And he needs to know for his ability to know exactly where he's at and what he's doing and the decisions, the very hard decisions that man or woman at some point in day will happen, right? Has to be able to make, right? There is no other position like it. The commanding officer, they have to have that data, right? So the ability for the CO to be able to sit in the room and to look over here and I see where my contact management picture is. I see my sonar picture. I see my navigation picture. I got my ship's control right in front of me. I have full situational awareness, tactically, that I can make the best. He's got real-time info, where he doesn't have to wait for those reports to come in. He can hear the reports. He can hear them talking. He can hear what's going on, and just be ready to make those real-time critical decisions.
Right.
And that's what in today's environment, they got to be quick. So I understand the ST side of it because it's what we are used to. We've had it that way for years, decades, right? But if you look at World War II, the Sonarman, he was like a little panel that was right off to the side. It's just one little panel operator, right? He's right there.
Right.
I think that's what they're just trying to get back to, is where all the decision making is happening in one space. And to me, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it would feel better. It's just that, right, with anything, so the one thing I always look at is the pilot co-pilot thing. I've been at a dive since 2008. I'm used to having my helms and planesmen. I couldn't imagine just sitting there with a pilot, co-pilot doing everything with two people. But the guys that's what they know, that's what they've learned. They'd rather have that than have the two planesmen.
Is the sonar room? I'm not really familiar with it on an SSGN. Is it a separate room, or are they all together? It is a separate room.
No,
okay.
so it's just forward. So up in control on the 726 class submarine, you have your control room, and just forward of control is the sonar and radio room.
And has technology really changed it a lot? I mean, I could imagine back in the 80s and all that stuff, you really needed sonar tech to be sitting there really focusing on the sounds and have no distractions or anything, where now, you have all this technology and computers that can begin to track this stuff automatically, and the sonar tech is there to double check it almost. Or am I wrong there?
So you're kind of right, but there is nothing beats having that operator that is solely focused on looking for specific things. The computer, it's got so much data it's pulling in. It can alert, here's a sound, heard something here or whatever, but to have that operator that can hone in on it, find it, try and classify it, look it up in the different systems that we have to see what it is that's out there.
Right.
Yeah,
and it really comes down to just the you only have so much space for computing power, so you got CSES on the 688 class. It's just a little spot for all this computing power, you know what I mean? So whatever you can do with that military technology, which is generally just a little bit behind for actual like computing power. They're not putting Los Alamos, computers in there, but
by the time I get it all certified and on the submarine, all that's
it's got to be a little bit of waterproof. It's got to be super
shockproof.
tested, shockproof. Sound. It's got to be quiet. Like all the stuff it's got to go through. And you can just see that design that they have on all the equipment. It's just a solid metal. Design with hard knobs a lot of the time. And it's funny, too, because you guys, or not you guys specifically, but the Virginia class has switched over to the Xbox controller, which people are really loving. I actually got to play with it. I got to go on the South Dakota for the commissioning ceremony. And when I went down there, I got to play around. They were letting us play around with the Xbox controller. It was kind of funny because I was like zooming in on the Nautilus, and I felt really weird because I'm so used to playing video games. I'm like, if I push the right controller, am I going to shoot something at this thing? Like, what's going on? It was so weird, but it would like zoom in and zoom out, and it had all these different features and stuff, and it was really cool to just like zoom in on another old nuclear powered submarine that's sitting on the pier there in Groton.
Yeah. Technology. Since I've been in, technology is just leaps and bounds, man.
Right.
So, with perspective of this, when I first joined on the Tennessee, how we had to look up ship's drawings was on microfiche.
Yeah.
Which was just film with the drawings really tiny, and you put it underneath a light, and it made it big on a projector for you in front of you.
Right.
Right. And now I just go to a web page and pull it up on the ship's computer.
Right. It's all digital now. Because when I was in, it was the tabs. We had the big giant books.
Yeah.
Of all the piping and stuff. Oh man, good times. Man, it was funny. Oh man, good times. So speaking of technology, though, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is we've kind of like stepped backwards. It feels like, you were talking about how you served on the Olympia, and the Olympia just did a harpoon launch, which was really odd because we didn't launch harpoons when I was in, and that was 2003 to 2008. I'd never heard of any submarine launching a harpoon at that point.
Yeah, they took them off around then sometime.
Right.
That was right when they stopped. I believe they took them off submarines.
I'd never even seen one. It was so funny because when they showed pictures on DFID's hub, nobody knew what it was. They were like, what is this weird wing thing on the back? Like, what? And then Jive Turkey, who had spent time, in the late 90s, he was like, oh, it's a harpoon. I'm like, oh, man, I guess I'm a young guy. I don't remember none of that shit.
Well, they launched it in that green canister, too.
Right.
But
I was hoping maybe you could talk a little bit about like what they're doing with this harpoon and why it's coming back all of a sudden.
So what I know that I can say, because a lot of the stuff that we do we can't really talk about, is when it comes to technology like weapons technology, we're just starting to step up our game. That's
right.
all.
Just give you some more options, right? That was always the idea. Was you're trying to diversify the weapons that you got, right?
Pretty much, right? So let's take some things that we used to use in the past and see what we can do to make it better, more reliable, longer range. I think that's where we're going with that in the Navy. Just so that way we can say, hey, yeah, you got your toys. Hey, yeah, we got our toys too.
Right.
That's always what it's really about, right? And I will say though, like I've said before, whatever other countries think they might have, I'm pretty sure we got something to counter.
So
yeah, and I've always said they probably stole that thing from us too. I'm just saying.
I always thought it was, after this happened at, I believe this is RIMPAC, right? 2018.
Yeah.
I thought it was training, preparing the crews and everything to be launching anti-ship missiles. For future ones that are going to be coming out. Like they talk about LRASM, they talk about making anti-ship version of Tomahawk again.
Right.
And other future weapons that might be coming out. I thought this was more training for that. I don't know if you can say anything about that, if that's the case, but...
Pretty much, if you think about it, that is what it is, right? We got things that we're always trying to hone and get better at what we do. So... something of the past that we can bring back, train for the future, right? We are all about training.
Right.
So joke about it on the boat all the time, right? We call it flipping, right? Live action role playing. Well, we do a lot of it. And it's for one thing, is to make sure that when the proverbial shit really hits the fan, the sailors know exactly what to do before the bad stuff really starts happening.
Right.
That's why we do the drills, the scenarios, all these other complex evolutions that we do walkthroughs after walkthroughs, and it just, when you do it all the time, it feels it's mundane and boring, and it's like, oh, here we go again, another fire drill. But hey, when the torpedoes are flying through the water and we have close aboard explosions, if all that shit really starts happening, we're going to have fires. We're going to have flooding that we're going to have to combat during all the chaos. And we do it so much, and we train on it so much that it should be second nature when it really starts happening.
Right, definitely. And that was another thing I wanted to ask you about was, when we were in port, we didn't do a whole lot of DC training, right? Not anywhere near what we did while we were out to sea. Obviously this is a long time ago, but with the Bonham Richard fire that happened just recently, which nobody knows what happened, right? They're still doing an investigation. I'm gonna completely assume it was hot work, which it generally is.
And what's hot work?
Hot work would be welding, grinding, anywhere where you're doing really hot work. It's just common sense wise, but yeah. So you're shooting hot metal stuff around, or you're doing welding, right? Which is generally where in port fires start. Sometimes back in the day you could say cigarettes, because people would just put out a bunch of cigarettes in a can, and the can catch on fire. But that's kind of gone now. They don't smoke cigarettes anymore underway. So, or in general. So, I would say hot work, right? So with what happened, is it going to change the way you guys deal with kind of import drills, fire? The last fire I could remember in port would be the USS Miami, which was kind of a special situation, obviously.
The guy, didn't he just want to get off work early?
Yeah, a shipyard worker that wanted to get off work.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. So with everything, right, we always take in data after the fact. Something like this, big significant events, the Navy does a great job of deep diving and finding out what the cause was, and then, hey, what were some of the problems that led to that happening? And then we try and put things in place to try and prevent it again, right? They don't just go, oh, that was a one-off. So like the Miami fire, changed a lot of ways and thoughts of how we combat submarine firefighting. A lot of the stuff has really changed since I've been in when it comes to, shipboard firefighting.
Right.
And, we definitely have ramped up from the time when I was junior to now on, hey, the import stuff is just as important as the at-sea stuff. Before we do any big transitions, when we take down our shipboard firefighting and we have to use off-haul firefighting, it's a block level approach of training. So you do your classroom training, and then you do your walkthroughs with the temporary systems you're going to have, and then you run a drill. Right, and then we do these big coordinated, ever since the Miami fire, the big fire, we do these coordinated drills now, kind of on a routine basis with the shipyard, with the sub-base fire department, where they're playing a part in it. And, so it's definitely ramped up, and I'm pretty sure we're going to learn some good lessons from Homer Shard and what caused it, and we'll be able to make ourselves a lot better in the long run. Those sailors all those sailors and firefighters did a great job, and they didn't give up a darn bit.
No, man, they held that ship the whole time. Actually, I have some video of it somewhere, but
it was pretty impressive.
If you go to DVID's hub, where the Navy or the military has all their open source video, there's just all kinds of stuff. I think they did 1,800 helicopter water drops on this thing. They went for 4.5 days fighting this thing.
It's a continuous fight of just going after it, not giving up.
Wild, man. I'm gonna show some video of just the kind of the smoke and some other stuff that was happening with it. But yeah, that was news-wise, that was kind of the big thing. But I mean, it was just.
And what? Maybe some insight from me, someone who's not as familiar with it. Why would it take 4.5 days to put out a fire? I mean, I know it's a massive ship. Is there other reasons to that?
So when you talk about like a fire on board a ship, when it gets hot, that heat that develops within that, and once it gets a hold, it's hard to get just in there. So you have all these compartments that are flashing over and just starting another fire, and it just builds. They were seeing, above 1,000 degrees. I mean, the heat becomes the problem. So trying to just get the heat and letting the heat get out of there so you can get to it and try and attack it. And that's also what they noticed with the Miami fire. They said the Miami fire, because it was in dry dock, there was no water around it. They could see the hull glowing red. That's how hot it got inside of there.
Yeah, and that was what you saw with the Bonham Richard fire, was that, if I'm even saying the name right, the tugboats were sitting out there spraying the side of the boat, or the ship, like for the entire 4 days, so that the hull wouldn't give out.
Yep.
And that's the hard part, because a lot of times you don't see that either, right? You just see the faraway helicopter view of just smoke coming up, and
yeah, here's some video of them just spraying the side down.
But you don't see the 1,000 heat and all this stuff going on inside.
Yeah, and so they'll actually have thermal imagers. So when I was on the Hampton, when we would train for fires, being an A-ganger, my job as the whatever, I don't remember, I was off going on coming, whatever it was, I was supposed to be in charge of the FLIR, the forward-looking infrared little camera, right?
You walk around with it and find hot spots.
You would go, yes, exactly what you did, right? The fire's over, you'd walk around, or you would walk into the smoke with it, however they needed you to use it. You just walk around, look for hot spots, because you don't see that, right? Especially like with the oxygen candles and stuff, those things will burn super hot, and you just walk over there and touch it, it'll burn your freaking hand, right? But yeah, so I definitely wanted to get your take on that. I'm glad that I'm not definitely not glad at all, but you guys have kind of learned the lesson from the Miami that this isn't going to change too much.
No, it'll definitely bring some light once they get done with the investigation. They'll really find out, hey, what went wrong and how do we prevent it again. But with anything like this, we always, hey, maybe because it happened over there, are we vulnerable? So we're already, we're looking into things, or looking at our DC programs, looking at our training programs. Are we doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing? Is everybody being trained like they're supposed to be trained? And we're spot checking this stuff. So we're really, we try and take hold of when we have bad things happen and see where we can, if we have any holes in our own organization, inside Squadron-16, inside the ship. When you're on the ship, when you see something like this happen, just take a look. What I always like to try and say is, you gotta look in the mirror at times when you see somebody else, something happens to somebody else. Hey, it's time to look in the mirror and make sure that doesn't happen to us.
Yeah. No, I know you're not there. You're only looking at, you have different videos in the news and all that stuff. But do you think that ship is salvageable?
Not speaking for the Navy at all at this point, but it's, with any type of major casualty like that, it all depends structurally, right? What type of repairs can they make structurally, and trying to be fiscally responsible, right?
Yeah. And they're already building a new class too, so it might just make sense to let it,
It's definitely going to screw up the rotation, right? So like you guys on the SSGNs, you do that forward deployment, right? And I think they do too. So this is going to, because now they're down one, they're thinking about maybe bringing back a mothballed one so they can continue to forward deploy with them. But
there's definitely options that, Big Navy's going to have to look through to see what we can do to not mess up the rotation with those ships too much, but it's definitely going to be a big impact. I know the CNO just put out a thing on Facebook a couple days ago on that they're really looking hard at the investigation, and they're going to figure out and see what they can do with the ship or not.
Yeah, it looks pretty rough. I got some interior pictures I'll pull up here in a minute, but it's or I'll actually put in the comments after the video, but it's You can see kind of the structure. It looks a lot of warped. I mean, a lot of those doors that they dog and stuff, you know, in submarines, we don't really have doors we dog or anything like that, but they'd have these kind of like metal doors, and they're just like, I mean, they look like lenses that somebody's trying to look through. I mean, they're just completely bent, almost 90 degrees top to bottom. It's ridiculous. It definitely took a lot of damage, and it didn't get to the fuel either. That was the other thing. It didn't get to the millions of gallons of oil and fuel they had on there. So it could have got completely worse, you know.
Oh, yeah, it could have been a lot worse than what it was. But I think it's a testament to all those sailors and firefighters that didn't give up and kept on trying to protect that part of the ship and make sure that part of the ship didn't get compromised.
Yeah, definitely. You talked about being a part of a SYNCCOM. What can you talk a little bit about that? Like, would you guys take out?
SYNCCOM?
Yeah.
Going on. So I've done 2 SYNCCOM deployments and all that. Really, mean, you know, we just went to the 5th Fleet AOR of operation, you know, over there.
Oh, I'm thinking SYNCX. I thought you guys were shooting at stuff.
No, that's just a 6-month deployment, like just a Westpac. It's just over in the 5th Fleet AOR.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. I was thinking SYNCX, like you guys are shooting missiles and stuff. Like, man, we didn't get to do that. We were supposed to go do that, and then they called us off.
On the, you know, they do the FSET launches on the BNs. I've done one of those. I've done, we did on the Hampton, after you transferred, we did the TLAM Echo launch. Or were you there for that one?
No, I was there. I actually was in the torpedo room when they launched it. It was, so the TLAM Echo was a new one we were working with, and I actually got to be the TMOW on watch for it, and I was like, yes, it's going to be cool. We're launching a Tomahawk. I can't believe it. We've never done this before. From VLS, by the way. We're launching it from VLS, like, yes! And I'm like, I'm going to stand way up front, right?
That was it?
Yeah, we were all standing in the fucking torpedo room, and we were like, and it goes, bloop. We were like all the stories we hear about the SSBNs, and they launch the missiles, and it like ripples the deck plates and shit, and we're like, we don't even move, we didn't even drop depth, we just went boom. Like, okay. God, man, I stayed on. I took this watch to do this, and it was nothing.
Remember, we realized all the fun once we got back into port, all the post maintenance we had.
Oh yeah, we had to do all the. Oh man, we had all the offloads and everything. Oh man, it was just. Oh god. It was cool though, because they told us, they were like, "Hey, by the way, we're gonna let you know how those results went." We were like, "Okay, that's cool." And they were like, "So you guys shot at a trailer." This is what they told me, I guess. You know, I may remember the story wrong, but they were like, "You guys shot at an 18-wheeler trailer in the middle of like Arizona." We shot over California, and then Nevada. Sorry, it wasn't Arizona, it was Nevada. They were like, this trailer had already been hit by a Tomahawk, so it's got this big hole in the top right corner of it. And so when you guys hit it, you could see the original slits of the Tomahawk wings that went through this trailer, and you guys had went through the same slits when that thing hit. Like, you guys missed it by 3 millimeters from where this other Tomahawk was, from 400 miles or wherever we were out in the middle of, off of San Diego shooting that TLAM.
That's pretty accurate.
Oh my god.
Wow.
And that was the Echo, right? So the Echo was the one where they added all this new stuff to it to make it super accurate.
Was it a Mark IV, Mark III?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think they gave them Mark names.
Because a lot, they'll usually just say it's accurate to within 2 meters,
right?
And that's it. That's the only information they give.
Yeah, they didn't get to. They were supposed to send us video, but I don't think that we never got to see it.
We finally got the video on the boat, so they got it on the ship. I remember seeing it.
Damn it! I did not get to see that. Man, I'm gonna have to put in a FOIA request to get that.
Yeah, you see the Tomahawk come up with the helicopter, and then you see the jet fly along with it as it's doing its waypoints. It was pretty cool.
Huh.
Yeah, waypoints, by the way. So it's just.
So you normally, I've looked into this a little bit. You launch them off the.
No, go ahead.
Oh, you launch them off the coast of California, and they'll fly kind of through the forest up north of LA, and then they'll cross over California into Nevada, and I've read sometimes they'll even go up into Utah. up to the training. Oh, is it not Dugway? Up to another training range up in Utah there.
I don't know.
Not always, but. And then the SSGNs are just, I mean, a massive Tomahawk launcher, right?
Yeah, you can say that.
It's, what is it,
Carry up to
154 can carry?
115 Tomahawk.
Wow.
Well, it depends on your configuration, but yeah.
Right.
Seven Tomahawks per missile too.
And sometimes you might convert those to carry deployed Navy SEALs or drones or different things like that, right? That's a possibility.
Yeah, those tubes are configurable to do a bunch of different stuff. So.
They've been talking about decommissioning those things soon. Is that, do you know anything about that?
It's they're. So I just got off the Florida, and she's 37 years old.
Yeah.
So it's they're getting up there in age, and it's only a matter of time, right? You can throw more money at it to keep her going, but you think of it this way: would you keep you get a car, and after 37 years of running that car constantly, how long is it going to be before you got to really overhaul the whole structure of the car?
Yeah, it just ends up costing more than to build a new one eventually.
Yep, it's going to cost you more money and more money. It's the same thing, but I don't see them doing it anytime soon. But yeah, in the near future, when we start seeing more of the block, was it the new extended haul?
Yeah, the Virginia.
Yep.
They're supposed to carry some 40 or have some 40 VLS tubes, right?
Yep. So that's what I think. The Navy's plan is they're going to pretty much take over the GN model when they come out with those. So.
Because Russia's always kind of done that, right? They have the Oscar class, a few different ones that are just cruise missile submarines.
Yeah. So we'll continue to have ours too.
Oh, were you going to jump it?
No.
Sorry. We were just talking about the VLS with Eric had to step off for a second, but we were talking about the VLS on the Virginia and decommissioning the SSGNs eventually.
Yeah. I mean, those all-up-round tubes are supposed to be pretty nice, right? Have you got to go out on one when they actually get to use them?
No, have not. I just Florida, been on there. Haven't been on the new. I'm excited to see the new Virginias with the extended hull with their new VLS system.
Right.
They've kind of taken the model of what they did, how they converted the GN missile tubes, right, to carry the 7 Tomahawks. That's where they kind of got the idea from and kind of modeled it from that.
One of the ideas I always had, I'm just going to throw this out there just to see if this may be a thing you maybe have heard of that you maybe can't talk about, but with the all-up-round tube being pulled out and making the maybe making the Columbia-class modular, where you can make that 7 Tomahawk setup removable and actually put a ballistic missile in there, and now you don't know what the hell is going on in that tube. This isn't,
that I don't. Now, I'm not speaking facts, but I don't think so, man. Anything's possible, though. As they are building they are doing the new Columbia class, so I don't.
Oh yeah,
that,
those are coming out soon, right? They're actually going to start constructing them.
Yeah, 2032, I think, is when the first one comes out. It's going to be a while.
But haven't they already started?
Yeah, they've already started building it.
Yeah,
I've seen pictures of.
They already started the procurement and all that phase of the Columbia class, so.
Yeah, I don't think they've laid the hull yet. I haven't seen a ceremony yet.
Just the early lead material and all that.
Right.
Yeah, they're doing all the starting of it, which is getting acquisitioning all the materials and the stuff to start building.
Right. You think you're going to be staying in long enough to get a piece of that?
Probably not, man. I think I got 7 more years. Long time ago when I was on the Tennessee, I wanted to be a Cobb. That's what my goal was, and I want to be.
Uh-oh.
Now retired Master Chief Landis.
Mm-hmm.
wanted to stay in the Navy. He was the first person that really got a hold of a young dumbass and said, "Hey, get your shit together." And he really put me down on the right path for life, and was like, "Man, I want to be able to do that as a cop. I want to be able to help sailors get that." So, everything I do after that's, to me is extra money, extra benefit for just being around this great organization that I've come to love.
I'm showing the video that you talked about in Suda Bay where you're running back and forth on top of the boat.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. You'll see the big guy, the tallest guy up there in a white vest. You'll see me running back.
Just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Because, so the captain's in this bridge, and I'm the guy topside mooring it. And the captain's like, "God, gotta make sure we're sitting right. Go check aft, go check forward." I'm like, "Yes, sir." I'm running back and forth. And then we have the added challenge, no one speaks Greek, and we're pulling into there's some guys on the pier that speak English, and I'm yelling at those guys, "Hey, go tell them to stop doing that. Hey, go." So, pulling into foreign ports is always fun on any ship, and you got the added challenge of that language barrier you're trying to talk through.
Oh man, the pilot didn't help you out or nothing, right?
So the pilot was helping the captain out. We got in there pretty good. We got set pretty well. They were great hosts. Loved that place. It was a blast to go and see all the history there. And with the people, it's just always a challenge when you're trying to moor that big ship that's not very movable, right? And trying to get it in the right spot and get the lines nice and tight. They just call your land tech. You need some IT help. Well, it's all prearranged with whatever you can pull into. So they're all. Yeah, it all depends on, obviously your host nation, right? And the other underlining thing that we always tell our sailors when we go into these foreign ports, right, is we're ambassadors of the United States. So please don't act like a jackass while you're out on liberty, right? We're trying to build relations with people because when they know that, hey, we're allies, and yep, thanks for letting us come into your port. Now we're here. We're as a presence of goodwill, right? We don't go around flaunting ourselves to be like, yeah, we're the biggest, baddest, but we're out there to show people that, when people out in other worlds try and do things that aren't nice to and conducive to what we think's right, we're there, but you might not know where we're at. So makes them think twice, right? Yeah. Yeah. So my first bit on, first time really working with, women in the Navy was when I went to go be an RDC. So, I had experience with it. Until then, it was when we pull into Guam and the subtender was there to see female sailors, be like, oh yeah, we do have females in the Navy. I'll tell you though, being a Cobb on the Florida was, probably one of the most challenging jobs I've had, and the most rewarding. Challenging because it's not because of the women in submarines, but because the GN it's a challenging beast.
Right.
Being on a full deployed GN, because it's the worst of the 688 life and the worst of the BN life, because you're doing crew turnovers overseas and you got to get the whole crew flown out there. So it's got its own challenges. But the ability to serve with those women on board that ship, it was just like I had more sailors. And I had very well talented sailors across the board, men and women. And to see them flourish and to see them excel and doing great things, I was like, finally. Because, we just got another talent pool.
Right. Huge talent pool, right?
Oh, and we get I have some of the, just had one of my, she was on the ship with me, Petty Officer Harris. She just got qualified in ANAV.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right? I couldn't be more proud of her and the things that she's achieved. And all the females that I've served with on the Florida, the stuff that we were able to do, it's all team effort, and they just want to go after it,
Right. Have you felt that it's helped with like manning? Like they've actually filled in that, because when we were in, man, there was a gap. Like we were hurting. There was always a division, always hurting for somebody to step in and help. Do you think it's gotten a lot better?
It's definitely opened up the talent pool, So, but the manning things, I think that's what I've learned over my years is that it's always a challenge, right? Because you're gonna have sailors that they for whatever reason they can't continue on. You're gonna lose a sailor because of it, and then you're gonna have other sailors that they just like when we were on the Hampton, you had some sailors be like, hey, they're like, this just isn't for me. And the submarine's a volunteer force. They get to that point, and they're like, I can't do this job.
Yeah,
it's too hard. It's too challenging. And we still face challenges in the Navy everywhere, right? It is a hard job to do. What we do is very difficult, and the manning is always going to be a challenge,
right?
But I think the thing that makes the difference is, just you look at them and then you tell them the truth that, hey, anybody out there that's listening to this thing that wants to become a submariner because you're watching the videos saying, oh, that looks cool to do. It's a hard freaking job, and you better be ready to come to work every day, work hard, and know that when we're underway and you're underneath that water, there's no forgiveness, because the ocean, she'll take it if you let her.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing there, But I have no qualms with having women in the submarine force. Never have. It's just opened up a wider talent pool, man, and it makes things better. I think, right? It should have been done a long time ago. I think, right? And I think we're going down the right path. And yeah, we're going to hit bumps in the road. With any change, you're going to hit bumps in the road, right?
Right.
But I think we've, handled it very well. And they're here to do their job like anybody else.
Good. What matters is you're competent, right?
Well, you volunteered for us. This is what it is, right? I don't give a shit about your background, what's going on,
what color you are.
None of it.
As long as you're competent, you can do the job.
You're going to do your job when the time comes, and we need you to do your job.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that should always be what's most important.
Yep. Oh.
Well, the Navy's got to break through their old stupid traditions and shit that they've always dealt with, like can't put women in submarines, can't put women in special forces, can't put women on the front line, they're just breaking them down because, we've realized we're just missing a big giant talent pool, like huge, right?
It's an interesting question. Yeah, it's an interesting change to see it because, if you think back to like World War II, for example, where they did not allow black fighter pilots to go actually into combat. They had them, escorts for the bombers and different things like that, because they thought that they could not handle the pressure and of combat. And we think we've kind of moved past a lot of that stuff, but here we are now facing a similar situation to an extent with women in the armed forces.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you got if she has the capability and the drive to do it, let her do it. That's my stance, right? If you just go after it, don't let anybody. The one thing I've learned too that I've always done is don't let anybody ever tell you no. There's always somebody there up higher that has the ability to override that person.
Right.
You go after something, you want to go do something, go do it, go try it. I mean, that's what I did. I just went after things. There's maybe one thing it's got is a bunch of opportunity out there to do whatever you want to do. You just got to go after and do it.
Have you noticed any difficulties with somebody asked here about tensions between the two? I'm thinking they're talking about
like male, female,
female,
like
relationships,
being unprofessional,
things like that. I mean, I'm sure that's a challenge, right?
What's funny, the females that I've had and that I've served with, they're harder than anything. They have the ability to, hey, get to work, do this. Hey, stop messing around. Let's go. Let's drive. Let's get it done. They work just as hard. They hold each other accountable. They don't, all this other stigma stuff that's out there. When you really see them work it, you don't really notice any of that happening because all they want to do is do their job.
Right.
And the males, it's like, hey, they just look at like, hey, there's my shipmate doing their job. That's it.
Is there any different sort of accommodations you would need to have both male and female on?
So that's what we do have, right? We have, they have their own berthing, they have their own head, right? Because we're required to segregate that, and they do get their own accommodations. So, and ever since the Michigan thing, we've made sure that, hey, there's no way that anybody can look in. So it's all sealed. They got their own stuff. They have their own accommodations. So yeah, they get their own berthings and stuff.
Yeah, and that was great about the Virginias. They kind of built them in the Columbia too. They're going to build them to
they're new. They can do that from scratch. Yeah, compared to trying to have to take an already existing ship and figure out how to design it.
So that's what we did with the Florida and Georgia. Now they've reconfigured some of the berthings. And then the aft head was reconfigured. The chief's quarters was reconfigured, so that way it can berth females.
Is there like hard? So I remember I only took a brief tour of the Florida. I think it was the Florida when it was in dry dock one time when I was in Norfolk, and I remember that the berthings they had just the soft curtains. Have they given the females like hard doors? There's not just like curtains you could just peek around like anybody else.
So with the berthings, right? It's curtains, but it's two curtains now instead of one. So you got one curtain and another curtain. And then they have their bunk room and then their rack curtains. So stuff that we put in there in place and policies like, hey, when you're going to change like that, go to the head and change, right? So we have, right? Just like in boot camp when I was in RDC, minimum clothing that they got to wear is at least shorts, t-shirt, undergarments when they're outside the head.
Right.
So it's the same thing on board the ship. So, that they wear that, and no one's peeking around, and everybody's when you have the right culture on board, right, and you're dealing with, you need to tell everybody, you need to treat everybody like they're your family, and don't disrespect each other. Be professionals. Things are good.
Yeah, you don't have guys walking around in 90s anymore. We had a A-ganger who would walk around in a pink 90 just to make everybody super uncomfortable. He did it just for that one reason. He would wear like these really short underwear so you couldn't see anything. Oh, it's just fucking unreal, man. Oh god. I feel like a lot of the stupid shit's probably stopped. No, you can't really do that anymore. But it is what it is. It's probably for the better.
The biggest thing that we preach on board, is we are a profession of arms, and we need to be professional in what we do every day.
Right.
Yeah.
until you do a blue nose ceremony or something, or until you cross the equator and then you do some weird shit, right?
Yeah, well, even with those right now, you got to get. We obviously say, hey, this is our plan and what we're doing, and the CO signs off on it, and we get all permission from our ISIC, say, okay, you guys can execute your plan for those type of ceremonies. They are not nearly as bad as the ceremonies back in the day, well before I joined, but we still are able to do a ceremony and that, crossing the line, the blue nose stuff, but it's all approved, hey, all those events that we do are, hey, they're within keeping of good order and discipline and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you joined you were part of the Navy I was in where we didn't tack on dolphins anymore unless somebody really, really, really wanted to have it done to themselves, and they just requested it and begged everybody to just beat the shit out of them. But whatever, we were kind of after all that. We didn't get to when we did our shell back. We weren't like eating stuff out of the grinder. You know what I mean? Like it used to be pretty crazy back in the day. Now it's just like bug juice or whatever it is that they give you.
Yeah, it's nothing crazy.
But anyways, man, I don't want to keep you all night. I know that you got food in your family and everything. I really appreciate you being on. We've hit about an hour. So this has been an awesome talk. I'd love to hit you up again if we can and get your thoughts if, God forbid anything happen or anything like that we have a kind of an open chat with you that we can talk about what's going on. But
I definitely appreciated the time and the discussions, Eric. It was great catching up with you. And Greg, it's great meeting you. I've been watching you guys on TAC Ops, man. I like coming in and listening to what you guys talk about. It's, different views and things like that. It's great.
Awesome. Yeah, and thanks for your service, man. We were talking about. I don't think I could ever serve on a submarine. I can't do it. I'm a tall guy. I don't know if I could ever go down in there. I just feel claustrophobic.
So, Greg, did Eric tell you how tall I am?
Yeah, he's taller than you are.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. And
did you ever feel claustrophobic? Did you ever have that issue? Well, obviously not now, but at first.
No, not at all, man. It's never bothered me.
Yeah, I mean, because most of the places you stand, it's 7 or 8 feet high. Like you're not like standing with your neck crooked to the left.
Oh yes, the overhead is only about 6.5 feet tall. So almost everywhere I'm standing, my head is like right there. And when I lay in the rack, I gotta lay on my side because my feet and basically the rack's only about 6 feet long.
Yeah.
Yeah, our A-gang chief, Chief Germany, was like 6'9". He was huge, and he was big. He was like 300 pounds, big guy. And nicest guy I ever met, but he'd walk around like this everywhere he went with his neck
all the way sideways.
Yeah, his head cocked to the left. Everywhere he'd go like, "Hey guys, what's up?" It's just
like they hated when I'd walk around and do zone inspection and be like, "Hey, look at all this dust up here, guys." They'd be like, "Cop, we can't even see up there. We don't even see a ladder to get where you're looking at. What are you talking about?"
All right. And the benefit of it is you're not like me because I was real skinny, so they shoved me in back behind the torpedo tubes, and I'm getting in. All behind the tubes, down, just everywhere. I was just like, oh, that's the downside. I actually got stuck in between a hydraulic tank one time, and it sucked. I actually have scars on my back from trying to crawl out from back there and messing my back up, getting stuck back there. But yeah, it's like that's one of the benefits of being big. Is they're not even going to try to shove you anywhere. Take the skinny guy or the small guy and throw him back there.
Just has to clean up all the dust off the very top of the ceiling.
See, that's another benefit about the females, right? Generally, females are smaller. They can slide in between there, get all those hard-to-reach spots, There's always a benefit, right?
It's always find the smallest, tiniest person to get out there.
Yeah, that's what sucks. I was always the skinniest person, so I was always, as an A-ganger, they're putting me everywhere to clean oil, all over the place. I hated it. But anyways, man, thanks again for being on. I really appreciate it. Don't hang up yet. We'll talk after this. But thanks for everybody for listening. Make sure you guys check out our Patreon, patreon.com/techops. What else?
That's it.
That's it, I guess.
That's all we got.
Yeah,
That's the end of our, 4 or 5 part series on submarines?
You're not writing a book or anything, right? Anything you want to talk
No,
about?
man, come on, man, I'm a torpedo man. I've been I read books, but me writing a book, you know, I'd be dropping profanity everywhere probably.
Oh, that'd be great. It'd be a perfect book. We need one like that. That's what we need. But
all right.
But yeah, thanks again. I really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for listening. Y'all have a good night.